Jainism started around the same time as Buddhism, and it has the highest levels of philosophy in terms of ahimsa or tolerance for all forms of life and so on. And never differentiated between the soul of a human being and the soul of an animal. Thus, a person, an animal, and an insect are equally part of the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Animals are sacred because people identify with them, an identity born of the belief in karma and the transmigration of souls. Okay? So this lies at the core of Indian philosophical thinking about nature. And it's very important to remember this when we are trying to conserve nature, when we are trying to promote wildlife conservation. And this is something that you will see in South Asia, essentially India and Sri Lanka, Bhutan, Nepal. So this is the underlying philosophical underpinnings, if I may call it, of our religious thought, philosophical thought, our way of life. And you can go back, even great emperors like Emperor Ashoka set up his father set up one of the biggest empires in India. Almost 80% of India was the first major empire called the Mauryan Empire. And you have edicts, rock edicts, you have writings that are etched on rocks. And one of the rock edicts, it lists a variety of creatures from queen ants, boneless fish and tortoises, to birds such as parrots and wild ducks, and mammals including deer, porcupine, squirrels, and wild asses. Okay? In short, he said that all these creatures have to be protected. They all have to be protected. Okay, and this protection goes back, these edicts is the 3rd century before Christ, or before the Common Era. It's more than 2,300 years old. So there is this conservation ethic that goes back into ancient times. It's not necessarily something recent that we have set up a national park, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. This is 2,300 years ago. And these are animals that are neither useful nor edible. Okay, so the idea was that biodiversity has to be protected for its own sake, because it was for its intrinsic value, not because of its value to people. Yes, you protect animals that are valuable to people. You protect cows, you protect elephants that are useful to people and so on, but you also protect all other creatures. So this is something very, very interesting. Now you can go even further back into Indian civilization. And this goes back to 2000 BC, okay, 4,000 years before present. And we had a great civilization called the Harappan civilization in India. It is almost as old as the Egyptian and the Mesopotamian civilization. So there are these seals that are found there. These are very, very small clay tablets. And in the clay tablet you have something with a horned figure, like a deity, and you have these creatures surrounding. You have the buffalo, you have the rhino. Christian, I know, is very fond of rhinos. So you have a rhino in that. You have the elephant on the top right, and you have a tiger. So there is a certain symbolism in this. And the symbolism is that possibly of sacredness of all these different creatures. And this goes back 4,000 years before present, the Harappan civilization which then. And in India we worship almost everything. Our deities are very closely associated with animals. The Harappan civilization that I told you, you have in the Harappan civilization you have this you have this figure, and you have the tiger, and you have a deity. The Indian gods, they ride tigers. This is goddess Durga, one of the deities of the Hindu religion, riding a tiger. This is from the south. Another deity is called Ayyappa, and he's riding a tiger over here. So deities or gods are very closely associated with animals. It's not just the gods. You take the common people of the country. This is the desert area of India. This is in the northwest, where there's a legendary reverence of the Bishnoi people towards the trees and the animals such as blackbuck and lingard. Their reverence for them. So here you see, a person and just tending to wild animals, and they protect them very fiercely. They don't allow people to come and hunt these animals in their area. They don't allow people to come and cut the trees in their area. So these are, kind of ancient traditional practices that have been there for a very long time. And this is perhaps a recognition of the fragility of their harsh environment. So these are people who have lived in the desert and grown in the desert for thousands of years. And they realize that their environment is so very fragile. Therefore, you need to protect the trees and you need to protect the animals. So this is the ancient Indian thought. Now, you come to the elephant, which is my favorite species, which is as I studied. In Buddhism, the sacred elephant is central to the birth legend of the Buddha. You must have heard of the Buddha, the great philosopher, teacher. You know, 2,500 years ago. You know, the story of the birth of the Buddha is very interesting. His mother, Queen Maya, had a dream that a white elephant holding a lotus in its trunk entered her womb. And 9 months later, she gives rise to the Buddha. Okay. So, the Buddha is considered the reincarnation of a sacred white elephant. So this is the kind of, and this is depicted in a clay tablet with the first century, 2,000 years ago. Here is the elephant, Queen Maya's lying on her bed, and the elephant is coming and entering her body. And then, of course, in Hindu religion, we have Lord Ganesh. Lord Ganesh is half elephant, half man. Okay, the top part of Lord Ganesh is elephant, and then it's man. Okay, so these are sculptures of that. It arose in the 4th century, and it spread to other countries. You get Ganesha in Cambodia, you get Ganesha in Vietnam, you get Ganesha in Japan. And you know, it's a culture that both, like along with Buddhism and Hinduism, spread. And the elephant and Ganesha is sacred. It is one of the supreme deities or gods in India. And you know, this is especially true for students. You know, students will pray to the Lord Ganesha because Ganesh, the elephant-headed god, is a remover of all obstacles. You're starting a new business, you pray to Lord Ganesh. Yeah, this god. You want to write your examination, you pray to Lord Ganesh and go and write your examination. You will have success. So this is animal worship is very much an integral part of our country. You have eagle, you have the peacock, Subramania, one of the gods, flags. The peacock is a vehicle. We even worship the snakes, the cobras. Okay, there's a Naga cult of worship of snakes. So, what I'm trying to tell you before I really come to the core of my lecture is that there is a very ancient reverence for animals in our country. And it's very important to sort of preserve this when we try to understand wildlife conservation. You can't just do it only by science. You need to understand the culture. You cannot come to the actual wildlife of India. You know, I told you there are 400 odd species of mammals. The wild cats of India hosts 40% of the global cat species. So anybody who's interested in cats, please come to India. You will find 40% of the species in our country. And you know, the tiger, the leopard, the lion, the snow leopards, and the clouded leopard, you have a whole range of wild cats. It's a paradise for all the wild cats. They are found across the different parts of the country. And then you take something like the tiger. You must have heard a lot about how the tiger is endangered, highly endangered. The tiger is almost extinct and so on. But it's also a success story. You know, exactly 50 years ago, 1973, we launched a project for the conservation of the tiger. The tiger population had come down to 1,800 estimated. And then India launched a big project. And this is the present day distribution of the tiger across the country. You know, that Christian wants to come to see the tiger. He's on his mind, the bucket list, and the place where you can very easily see the tiger is here. And there are a number of places here you see the tiger quite easily too. Okay, in Central India. Of course, I work in the south. You do see them a bit more chancy. But if you want to see a tiger, just get in touch with me and I'll tell you, or I'll take you and show you a tiger in the wild. You just spend 2 days and I'll show you a tiger in the wild without any problem. Now the success is that we launched something called Project Tiger in 1973, a highly publicized event. India was a very poor country. In 1973 we were a very, very poor country. But still we put in resources to set up our national parks, our sanctuaries, our tiger reserves. Okay, and then, you know, over a period of time, the tiger population started increasing. 2006, 1,400, 1,706, 2002, 26, 2009, 67. The latest census has just come out. There's more than 3,000 tigers in the country. I tell people, you know, they say, you got a country, you got 1.4 billion people in your country. I said, the irony of India is not that we just have 1.4 billion people. We also have 3,000 tigers. We have 30,000 leopards. And we have 30,000 wild elephants. And I'll show you some of the pictures. So that's where the coexistence comes in. I mean, if you ask me one reason why animals have survived in India, and there are scientific papers that show that 2 regions of the world that have suffered the lowest rate of extinction in the last 100,000 years. And these are hardcore paleontologists who do this kind of research, and I can give you the references. They come out in journals like the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, US. Last 100,000 years, Africa and South Asia have suffered the lowest rates of extinction. There's one factor, if you ask me, it's the connect of people with nature and the reviewers, nothing else. All protection, all that we do, yes, all that is there. But if people did not want the animals, they would have killed them off. They would have killed them off. We don't kill animals. Even animals can kill people once in a while. So after that, after 50 years, we just celebrated the 50 years of Project Tiger. And the number of tiger reserves in the country has grown from 6 or 7 to 30, 40, 50, very, very large number of tiger reserves you have all across the country. And this is the present distribution of the tiger. So the Project Tiger is a very successful conservation project. And even with the growing population, we managed to grow the number of tigers in the country with all that. Even though you will find that there is habitat fragmentation, a lot of other challenges and so on there, you can see the distribution is not contiguous, still we have managed to protect the tiger and increase the tiger population in the country. Then I come to the man-eating. In spite of all the conflicts, you have 50 plus people killed each year by tigers. And of course, it's down from 1,000 plus during the 20th century. But today, the conflicts are going up again. Okay? So you look at tiger population, the tiger population is going up, the human population is also going up. So it's not that if you get increased human population that the animal population has to come down. You can have both going up, and this is leveling off. And the number of human deaths, you can see 50, 60, 30, 40, 50 people killed by tigers every year in the country. But still, because of the tolerance, they are able to. How many of you have had a puma in your apartment? Raise your hand. Pumas in your apartment? No. You come to India and we show you a leopard, and leopard is almost as large as a puma. You come to the city of Mumbai. Mumbai has 20 million people. And in an apartment there is a national park right inside Mumbai, and you have leopards. And you can get a leopard coming into your apartment once in a while. If you want to see a leopard, you come to my house. I have a house very close to a national park. And every night I get the leopards coming right outside inside my house. It is so Christian. Later on, I don't have a picture of it, but we get leopards and they raise their young and all of that. So people live among animals. But this also brings a lot of conflict. Right? Brings conflict. Tigers kill people, tigers kill livestock, elephants kill people, elephants damage agricultural crops. And an antelope like this called the nilgai, they damage a lot of agricultural crops and so on. And of course, the lion is fortunately not so much in conflict with people directly, but many species are in conflict today. And my favorite animal, the Asian elephant, is very widely distributed, and I'm going to tell you a bit about that. Elephants in India are found across 4 different regions. They are found in the north, they are found in the northeast, they are found in central India, and they are found in the south. And the south is where I do most of my studies, although my team actually works across all these different regions. We have research projects of elephants across all these. And we have 30,000 elephants in the country today. About 50% of the elephants are found in the south. Then we have about 12,000 elephants here, about 2,000 elephants here, and about 3,000 elephants here. And this is in a bit of a bad shape because too much of fragmentation of habitat, a lot of conflicts and so on. But in the south, we have a very good system of reserves, for the elephant. And the elephant population is quite stable, the habitat is stable, and I'm very optimistic that if the elephant will survive in one region, it will survive in southern India. And Bangalore, where I come from, is right here. And I'm very fortunate because we have the largest global population of Asian elephants. About 8,000 elephants are found in this one area alone. And that's where I do my long-term research on elephants and forests and so on. But similar to the tiger, you'll see that the elephant population has been going up here. The population in 1980 was about 15,000. Today we have 30,000. Human population going up, elephant population also going up. But the number of human deaths has been going up. And unfortunately. Because elephants are expanding their range into agricultural areas. And farmers try to defend the crops, and very often they get killed by the wild elephants. This is a big challenge that we face today. And in India alone, about 500 plus people are killed, and millions of, I mean, I put it in Indian rupees, but millions of dollars worth of crops are damaged. You can see a paddy field in which you see the elephant dung, the dung of the elephant, the feces of the elephant. So this is very common today in the country. It's one of the major challenges that we face. And a hut has been damaged. There's a lot of people in India, poor people. They are subsistence farmers. They just get one crop. They are found in small villages, very areas right next to the forest where the elephants are there. They come out, the elephants come out in the night, they break the huts, they trample the maize crop, the person having been killed by an elephant. So, you see, and these are all wild elephants. And I can tell you that elephants are very large creatures. A bull elephant can weigh about 5 tons. And a female elephant will weigh about 3 tons. So all that the elephant has to do is just give one click to the trunk and you're gone. But you see, these are elephants moving through a human-dominated area. You can see the houses here, in the background, right? And you see the elephants are passing through this. This is becoming increasingly common, and this is one of the big challenges that we face when it comes to conservation of elephants. And of course, there are farmers who take all these torches and try to drive the elephants from their properties. Very common occurrence in the country today. And the wild elephant ransacks the bus. This is not a captive elephant, this is a wild elephant. It stopped a bus on the main road, and it's looking for foodstuffs. And all the people, this is in the state of West Bengal. These Bengali elephants, as I call them, are very special. They do all kinds of tricks that elephants in other parts of the country have not yet learned. You can see this bull. This is a bull elephant without tusks. You see this wet patch here? This is called must-in elephant. I don't know if you've heard of the term must. You heard of the rutting of the deer? Rut? R-U-T, rutting. It's an annual physiological phenomenon in the male deer. They come into rut. Okay, they come into rut and they advertise their signals to the females to attract the attention of the females. This is what the male is also doing, you know. This male is a very well-fed male, and he's coming into musk. There's a chemical signal coming out from the musk gland. He is telling the other males that please keep away, you know, because he's very aggressive at that time, and he's attracting the attention of the females for mating. So this is the musk period. This happens about once a year, and he's in musk for a few weeks or maybe a month or 2 months. He stopped the bus and he's trying to pull out all the food. And fortunately, all the people, nobody got killed because they went away, they walked away, and they were standing to the elephant to go back to the jungle. You all have heard about climate change, right? And climate change is causing new challenges in the country. And the climate change, in 1982-83, we had an El Nino. And the older generation would probably remember that in 1982, you probably had a very high rainfall. Christian, is that true? You had very high rainfall in this part of the world. On the other hand, when you have an El Nino, we have drought in India. When we have La Nina, you have a drought and we have very high rainfall. So the last 4 or 5 years, we had an extended La Nina, and we had very good rainfall in India. But we are entering El Nino and the rains have already failed last month. And 82 was a very intense El Nino. And what happened is the elephants left the forest and marched off 100 or 200 kilometers. They actually went from the state where I am, in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, where I work and I come from. They went up to this state. So now from the embassy in Andhra, they went into the state of Andhra. And the state of Andhra had not seen wild elephants for the last 300 years. So suddenly you had 50 elephants now going to that state. And the chief minister of the state said, oh, this is Lord Ganesh, the god who has come to us. So let us accept the elephants in our state. But then a lot of conflicts happened, a lot of people were killed, a lot of crop damage. We're still dealing with all that. But it is because of an adverse climatic event, El Nino. And with climate change, El Nino might become more frequent, more intense. So elephants might start dispersing. So similarly, these elephants started moving out, they moved here, they moved to Andhra, this is the range. And they had a lot of, some of these elephants had a lot of forest where they came from, a lot of water. But they mainly moved along the forest periphery. This is wild elephants, and there are people living in houses, and these are coconut trees here. Okay? They come out on the roads and they start stopping the vehicles and so on. These elephants had to be captured, by the way. This herd had to be captured. So, climate change is bringing new challenges to the conservation of wildlife because of conflict. Now, I'm not going to be too technical, but very, very briefly, what promotes conflict? What I call the push factor and the pull factor. The push factor is something that's pushing the animals out of the forest. Habitat loss, habitat degradation, habitat fragmentation in adverse climatic events like El Nino. But on the other hand, you also have the pull factors because outside the forest, India is prospering. Agriculture now is prospering because of irrigation. Dams are constructed, the canals bring water, farmers can grow more crops, and there is more agricultural crop now available outside the forest areas. You also have the crops that we cultivate, the paddy, the sugar cane, the maize. They are very nutritious. They give you more nutrition, more protein, more sodium, and so on. Okay? So you have problems like this in India. Iron ore mining. I know that copper is big in Chile. Iron ore mining is very big in India. Coal mining, and the habitat is destroyed, and therefore the elephants go. But on the other hand, the crops, cultivated grasses, what I call them, they have higher levels of nutrients like protein, like sodium, like calcium. This goes back to my PhD days, compared to what they eat in the wild. Okay, you look at these values and look at these values are higher. So elephants they like this more nutrient. We are creating the supermarkets for them outside. So they go to the supermarkets, right? And forage, irrespective of what they have inside the forest. And these are elephants totally outside. They're very close to Bangalore city. Coconut orchards and all male. All these are male elephants. They are ganged up together. And, they come and raid the crops over there. But elephants also die because occasionally a farmer puts a wire, electric wire, and the elephants die because of this. This problem. And very interesting because my friend Christian is going to start work on glucocorticoid levels, the stress levels in the pumas. We did this. I just ask you a small quiz right now. Look at this lean elephant, the bones are sticking out. Look at this elephant is well fed. Okay, I ask people which elephant is inside a national park and which elephant is outside the national park. Mostly people say that this is outside the national park and this is inside the national park. That's what you think, wildlife protection, you need a national park, a protected area. It's the opposite. This elephant is inside the national park, and this elephant is outside the national park. So he's getting much more food outside the national park compared to what this poor guy is getting inside the national park. It's not that he doesn't have food. What I'm saying is, this guy is overfed. He's eating a lot of food and is becoming obese and he's coming to muscle or whatever. And the glucocorticoid levels, the stress levels, are actually lower in this fellow compared to this fellow. So the superior nutrition, he's chased by the farmers, he's harassed by the farmers. In spite of all the stress that he's peaceful, he's inside the national park. But this guy is getting more nutrition. That nutrition is compensating for the stress. And he's actually having lower level of stress of glucocorticoids. We published a paper, Animal Conservation Christians that I share. I know let's take 5-10 minutes to talk about climate change. I have been part of the IPCC for many, many years. And you know about IPCC and I'm going to go through it. All these global projections that over time with greenhouse gas emissions, the world is going to get warmer and warmer, right? It's going to get warmer. It's already probably happening in Chile, it's happened in India, it's happened globally. And you're going to get changes in the mean temperature, precipitation. Precipitation is going to change. Some areas are going to get more rainfall, more precipitation, some areas are going to get less rainfall, less precipitation. And then soil moisture correspondingly. So these are the global projections that you see. And you can see that Chile, the brown is not looking very good. The brown is not looking very good. Brown means, changes changes. Right, just one second, yes, the brown is not looking very good. So it means that these are the areas that will suffer drought and you have lower rainfall. The blues are areas where you get higher rainfall, like parts of India, which is also not very good because you get floods on the one hand. A lot of changes are going to happen in soil moisture and so on. And these are things that you can easily download from the website of the RPCC. And over India, you will see temperatures are going to increase, but rainfall in some areas are going to increase and some areas are going to decrease. So it's a mixed kind of a message that's coming out. And India, the total forest cover in India is populated for a very long time. We only have 20% of the land under forest. And you can see the forests are in the south, in some parts of central India, the northeast, and a bit in the north. And there are large areas where it's all cultivation and there's no forest over here. So we do all these climate change models, and I'm not going to get into technical details about all of this. But I have set up, apart from my work on elephant, 35 years ago I set up a series of forest plots. And I don't know how many of you are foresters or forest science. I do a lot of forest science myself. These forest plots, about 70 hectares of land we have set aside for forest plots. And we are monitoring it year after year over many decades now. And we noticed that invasive plants, that increasing CO2 and climate variability is facilitating the spread of alien invasive plant species like Lantana camara. Lantana camara came from this part of the world, into India, as an ornamental plant. And it came to India about 200 years ago. It is spread through our forest, the undergrowth, and choked the understory of the forest, like anything. With the result that, and climate change has played a role in it. And what has happened is, please forget about all this. We had a lot of grass in the forest. The grass is green, the green bars are the grass. And the blue bars are the lantana. You'll see that over the years, 1990 onward, the grass is coming down. It's almost good. The lantana, which is the blue, started its journey with very little in 1990, going up. This has meant enormous implications for the herbivorous animals, which feed on grass. They now are deprived of the grasses, and these animals are not going out of the forest because of the spread of lantana, which is linked to climate change. So climate change is not just a direct impact, it's also the indirect impact that climate change is making up. Climate variability is making up, fires, all of this. And now another species again from this part of the world is Senna spectabilis. It's a new invasive, very ornamental. People brought it because of the flowers, attractive yellow flowers. This is spreading in our forest, and it is not eaten by elephants and so on. So our forests are very vulnerable to climate change. We prepare vulnerability analysis like this, and at the same time, we as a country with 1.4 to 1.5 billion people, we are the largest country in the world in human population. 1.5 billion people. And we have a rapidly growing economy, growing at 6%, 7%, 6% per year. Among the major economies, the large countries, it's one of the fastest growing. We have our developmental aspirations. We are still a low to mid-income economy. Okay, we're not in the category of, India is a land of contrast. We're able to send a rover to the moon, a satellite which landed on the moon safely. When another major country launched something a few days prior to that, and their landing thing crashed on the moon, but we are able to land. So we have very sophisticated science in our country, technology. At the same time, we have a lot of very poor people. Therefore, we have to our developmental aspirations. So our conservation outlook, and I serve on various committees of the government of India, is that we will not compromise on basic development and growth. We will not compromise because we are still a low to mid-level economy. We at least need to grow, at least to be able to live the majority of the people who are below the poverty line, above the poverty line. Decent standard of living. So our conservation outlook is based on that, and whatever we try to do. And of course, climate change is now the new challenge that is causing all this problem. And I think the only solution in a country like India is what I call sensible landscape scale planning. the PA, India has 700 protected areas, 700 protected areas. But the days of the protected areas are gone now. Large human population, you need to plan at the scale of the landscape. You need to plan at the scale of the landscape, integrate forests, wildlife, human settlements, agriculture, development with, with conservation. That's the only thing that we can do. So we need a new paradigm for the conservation of wildlife in the country. And people are crucial to it. Integrating people and their development needs, agroforestry, community, private lands. We need to have different financial models for this. It's not just telling people, get out of the forest. You're in a tiger reserve, we just remove you and we put you out. No, that's not going to work. It's not going to be productive use of, of people and the economy and so on. We have to integrate people in wildlife conservation. Wildlife corridors are very important in the landscape, wildlife corridors. But very often, if you have a canal, an irrigation canal goes there, it's put a bridge. And you see the dump, there's an elephant. The elephants can cross this. So we think of engineering solutions and so on. And we need to invest in people. Like this is Kaziranga, where the largest concentration of rhino in the way of Asiatic rhino in the world. Okay, you have about almost 2,800 rhinos in this park, about 1,000 square kilometers. A lot of elephants and tigers too. But then during the flood season, this is the Brahmaputra River. The Brahmaputra River covers this whole area, and the rhinos and the elephants they start migrating south across the highway, and they come into this area, which is all community forest. So you need to invest in the people and the local communities so that they maintain the forest or the land use pattern. So we need to have very different conservation paradigms, not the national park or the protected area is important. That's important. But that's the pure Western concept alone will not serve the conservation needs of India and the developmental aspirations of our people. So we have to come up with our own homegrown solutions to protecting wildlife. And just to give you my last two slides, we do GPS collaring of an elephant. This is one of the earliest GPS called almost 20 years ago. There's a female elephant called Dami, and it's in a tea garden. There's a tea, these are the tea is cultivated here. What you drink the tea, and over a period of 1 year, this female elephant roamed over an area of about 1,000 square kilometers. But this 1,000 square kilometers has forest, the green is forest, but you can see how fragmented it is here, and the pink are tea gardens. So you have the landscape in which you have multiple land use. And that's where the planning comes in, where are the corridors, how she moves, how can you have arrangements with the tea gardens to protect those corridors and so on and so forth. It's very, very important. And we came up with the project Elephant Reserve for Landscape 30 years ago. I played a major role in designing all of this for the country. This is in South. This has 15,000 elephants today. And because of the project Elephant Reserve, the landscape, the tiger population has increased greatly in these areas, in some of the areas. And this is Peninsular India, and these are the different project Elephant Reserves in the country. So what I call is that developing countries, we have our own special needs. And in India, all the more because of the low base of our economy still, the very large human population, the imperatives of development. Even to adapt to climate change, you need to have resources. We need to have resources. Therefore, we need to come up with our own conservation paradigm or conservation ideology, not something just that we import from our Western country, but we need to have our own homegrown solutions. That will take care of both wildlife, people, development, and at the same time maintain what I call the reverence of people towards nature and animals, which I told you in the beginning is very, very important. Because today, because of increasing conflict, we didn't put that was the last question. Last question to the power source.